indie artist myself, electronic music producer, musician, keyboardist. I've been interviewing indie artists since 2018 on Anchor FM, which is part of Spotify. And we have Momarazzi on the line.
Yes,
You guys
sir.
are you guys from California or Texas?
We are from Texas, Central Texas, around the San Antonio area.
Okay, cool. So you guys, well, how would you label your band? Are you guys like a punk, indie, rock, heavy metal? Like you're a mixture of multiple genres?
Yes, sir. All of the above. No, we're like an alternative, punky indie band. I'd say a good mix of everything.
Yeah, we try to
Pop,
mix a lot of things, a lot of different kinds of rock genres. We got some of that classic
yeah, classic
tones
rock,
to it,
definitely.
but as well as that.
Yeah, because I was listening to your latest single, Leech, and I
Yeah,
heard,
thank you.
Thanks, man.
yeah, and I heard like it sounded a little bit like the Strokes, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
I also heard some like Guns N' Roses like on your guitar solo.
Oh,
Um,
thanks, man.
yeah, kind of,
Right? That's
yeah,
awesome.
channeling Slash a little bit, and then I'm a big fan of bands like Joy Division and the Clash and Green
Yes.
Day,
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's do Orange 9mm. I'm a keyboardist, but I have an appreciation for punk music
Oh,
because
yeah.
I like Trent Reznor and industrial metal and stuff like that. So yeah, I could hear your reference points because I'm a big music fan. I love every type of music. I'm showing my age. I'm like 52 years old. I grew up with the Beatles, the
Oh,
Stones, and Hendrix. And, I was there for when punk started. I was into like CBGBs and all that stuff
oh,
going on.
really? No way. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
with all those bands, from the Talking Heads to bands like the Runaways and everything in between. I'm just into everything.
So
But
what kind of music do you usually play?
well, I play what I call expansive sound, which is a mixture of bands like Sun Ra and Parliament Funkadelic and bands like Yes and bands like
Oh, cool.
Genesis, like
Yeah, that's
old school. I use like analog Moogs. I have real keyboards that are like Moogs and Roland Jupiters and stuff like that.
that's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, I'm a keyboardist. So I grew up liking guys like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Stevie Wonder. People who can, Greg Allman, great keyboardists. People who would play Hammond B3s. Play any kind of great synthesis. From like the
Oh,
guys in
yeah.
Sun Ra to Herbie Hancock. Stevie Wonder. Any great keyboardist I was into, but I also like guitar players.
All right.
And a lot of keyboardists are like frustrated guitar players because they're like, okay, I wanted to play guitar, but I ended up being able to play keyboard. So I always love to listen to a lot of heavy metal and a lot of punk bands, from
Oh, yeah.
Pearl Jam, Pete Townsend,
Dude, we love Pearl Jam.
We do love Pearl Jam.
Yeah, their latest album, that's like a return to form. That's really
Yeah,
good.
it's really good. I love it.
Yeah, Gigatron is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
But
That's actually Austin's biggest vocal inspiration is Eddie Vedder.
Yeah,
He takes a lot of
Eddie
yeah.
Vedder? Yeah. Well,
love
Eddie's
Eddie
got
Vedder.
that emo. He's got that like that thin line between emo, grunge, and punk. And then,
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate the compliments, man.
Yeah, and it's like the cool thing about grunge was bands like Pearl Jam were kind of echoing the Who. The Who is one of my favorite bands of all time, and and they were like the original punks. Pete Townsend and Keith Moon. Those guys were like the original mod punks from London. They kind of had that attitude before anybody.
Yeah, they did what they wanted.
Yeah, I always appreciated that sound. Kind of reckless abandon. I think it's good because in an age where people are so tied down to BPM, they're so tied down to their soft synth, they're tied down to using Pro Tools or any of the the tools out there on the DAWs.
Oh, yeah.
I just talked to a punk band from Australia a couple of days ago, and we were kind of getting into the fact that some of the modern sound is a little too anesthetic, is a little too clean.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And the next, I'm interviewing another band from like LA today, a female kind of riot girl act, And you know, the last three bands I've interviewed are punk, alternative, grunge, you know, post-punk rockers. That seems to be kind of coming back a little bit in the indie world.
Yeah,
at
I
least.
think that's awesome. It's a definitely a cool sound that's
Yeah.
been coming out recently.
And it's cool to see it on the rise. I mean, you can, if you really pay attention and see all these bands that are coming up, and they're starting to form like a scene again instead of just all different kinds of spread out genres. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like
It's
forming more.
it's definitely more of like a national effort,
Yeah.
I'd say nowadays. You know, just like everyone's kind of, you know, jumping in on it. Then even
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's what I've been really interested in, you know, promoting bands that are, you know, indie, independent, you know, alternative music, you know, because the big labels, they got their own way of doing stuff, but I like to give, you know, bands like yourselves a chance to get out there and have people know who you are. So I sent you a bunch of questions, so I'm going to start with that. When did you guys first get into music? Who you can decide who answers that first.
first get into music. Like in general, I'd say, you know, my whole life, and I'm sure it's the same with Austin. I don't want to answer for him, but yeah, we've loved music for, I mean, as long as I can remember personally.
Yeah, for me, getting into music was mostly it's because of my dad. My dad was a drummer in a band back in the day, and so he was always listening to all different kinds of, you know, rock genres and music, and he would always
Weird Al Yankovic.
Weird Al Yankovic. You know, he's a great. No, he was. But like, you know, like bands like Rush and, you know, some of his favorite bands, and then growing up on that kind of stuff, and teaching me to really appreciate the music and like having a musical household with the drums. We had a piano, you know, we had a guitar, and so it was kind of just natural for me to grow up with music.
That's awesome. So like you were starting like before you were a teenager then.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
When he was 5, his dad taught him "How You Remind Me" by Nickelback on the drums, and
that's
he just
awesome.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, no, he didn't. I'm messing with him.
No,
but
it was
cool.
from a young age.
Yeah, because I remind, but like when I first started, I was in like a basement band, and we started off playing like, you know, Cream songs and Jimi Hendrix songs.
Dude, that is so awesome.
That's really cool.
we just started. No, and we were, you know, I'm an African American, but people always like, oh, you know, and like they don't remember like blues came from like African American blues guys, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Jimi Hendrix is still considered one of the greatest guitar players of all time. So it's not surprising, you know, what some people find it surprising when they see an African American kid like rock. But I'm like, I like Leadbelly, right?
Like,
you
we
know,
invented it,
I like
right?
Robert Johnson. You know, like what are you talking about?
Yeah, if you look
it's
at
not only
history,
Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, like they kind of came from Leadbelly and Robert Johnson. You know, come on, but
Robert Johnson.
Yeah, great blues guys. You know, that's B.B. King. You know, Hendrix. Like, still people can't outdo. I have like every Hendrix song that ever was. I got like every bootleg. I'm like totally drawn into that. But
he
so
was amazing.
How long have you been working on music? Like, when I like to ask about like working on music, when did you decide that you had your own voice in music and you wanted to put together like your own bands? You know, how early did you actually start forming bands?
When I was a kid, really young, my dad would always tell me the stories about him being in a band, and I would invite my friends over, and we would just you know, we'd get on his drum set and we would just pretend like we were in a band. We would try to come up with songs. So I'd say, if you mean from like wanting to form a band, it was from a really early age, just having those stories being told me. It just sounded really cool, and I always wanted to do it. And then once I got into high school was when I was really starting to like meet new people, and I was ready to actually seriously try and start a band. And that's where me and John met around middle school. So,
and then
is this like your first band, or a band that you guys have been in many bands and you kind of came back together and created this band?
This is my first band personally, but Austin had a band in high school called Moronic Behavior.
Yeah.
There was like a punk band, and they played for a while, but then after high school, me and Austin were talking, and we kind of just, you know, realized that we wanted to do something together because we both, you know, like the same kind of music, and kind of just went on from there. We just realized like, wow, we have a really similar kind of sound we want.
And we just started that same night. We just went upstairs, grabbed the guitar, and started jamming on some new songs, and then like from then on, we were like, okay, this is a band now. We're gonna do this.
So who who plays bass, who plays lead, or do you both play guitar?
Oh, so Austin plays rhythm guitar, and then I play lead and rhythm guitar. And we have a bassist named Jake and a drummer named Paul, but neither of them are here right now because we're kind of quarantined.
Yeah, locked down.
Yeah.
I'm locked down. I'm locked down in New Hampshire, so I understand.
I got you. Yeah.
New Hampshire.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's where I'm
Never been
actually
there.
from. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
I'm an East Coast guy, but I actually worked with somebody from LA a couple of years ago on a project. So that's as far. I never got to meet him, but we just worked on the net. But
That's awesome.
That is cool.
That's really cool.
yeah, you can do a lot. I got my own home studio with all my modes and stuff. But yeah, what's cool when you started, like you were talking about your influences, your reference points. I kind of like to dive into that. So, like, can you guys kind of give people a feeling for like who your influences and reference points are? Like maybe even your latest release. Like if you talk about like Leech, are the specific? I kind of name check some people, but who would you say are your heroes or your inspirations?
So for Leech, when I was writing Leech, some inspiration that I got from was one of my favorite rock albums is Arctic Monkeys' "Your Favorite Worst Nightmare."
Okay, cool.
And so that's one of my one of my favorite bands. But for the most part, I mean, there's also the classic rock influences. There's just a lot of different kinds of music that we listen to that we kind of just flow into our music. All of our songs, really. We never really pinpoint it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we listen to so many different kinds of music and we appreciate so many different kinds of music that it kind of I think it shows in our songs.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to pin down. A lot of people, it's better to kind of say indie or alternative because, like, I'm a cross genre, and I think this is the age of cross genre. Like that's kind of like I name my record label Expansive Sound just because that means I can include like everything.
Oh yeah.
From like jazz to Johnny Cash to like hip hop. To
Definitely.
listening to like anything. It's like I kind of Frank Sinatra. Like
Oh,
if something
yeah.
Sinatra wrote that's cool. It's cool. If something Johnny Cash wrote, it's cool. I'd like to listen to hip hop, go back, listen to, the 70s, like Zepp, everybody listened to Zepp, but,
Oh, definitely.
I like to get a little deeper, listen to like Alex Chilton and Big Star or something, or the Velvet Underground with Lou Reed. I kind of go wherever. But, yeah, it's cool. Like a lot of the bands I've talked to, even if they have a punk aesthetic, they're kind of all over the map. They'll name check the Beatles, or they'll talk about, some hip hop people today, like a Tyler the Creator, or they'll talk about all kinds of other people
God.
that they're inspired by. Yeah, it's just like all over the map.
Yeah, Tyler the Creator is an amazing artist. I take a lot of inspiration from him, definitely, just musically. I think
I was surprised with him. He started with Odd Future as a kid, and then he's gotten to this like big. He's like a Bowie.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
He kind of reinvents himself with characters all the time.
Yeah, I think with like streaming and how easily we can access music, I mean, it's just I think people tend to branch out more these days.
Definitely. It's easier to.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I didn't have the technology I did today and I just grew up in the household, with my parents, raising me, I would really mostly just listen to the music that my dad had laying around, so I would mostly just be into the classic rock stuff and then branch out a little bit when I listen to radio. But luckily we have all this, have all this music at our fingertips. And so we can you just learn so much more and all different genres. And so now I can go in and just listen to jazz. I have a jazz playlist on my phone. So I just listen to that for a while, or, all kinds of stuff, heavier stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you're into jazz, try Sun Ra Jazz and Silhouette. That's a really good album. Or Space is the Place.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll check it.
Those are really awesome. Kind of like the cool thing about Sun Ra, just to give you a little history, they were one of the first jazz outfits to ever use a Moog back in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
And this is like 58, 59. They got a Moog from New York, one of the first ones.
That's crazy,
and
man.
And they actually kind of predate Funkadelic. If you ever look at Sun Ra, they dressed up like space aliens.
Oh, what?
They were
50s?
They were
crazy.
a jazz outfit, a bebop jazz outfit. They played like Davis. but they
That's
dressed up
wild,
in
man.
long like aluminum capes and masks, and they looked like Parliament Funkadelic from like 74 and 58. And actually, like George Clinton kind of took the idea to be a kind of space funk alien black band from Sun Ra.
Huh.
But Sun Ra was not successful with that imagery, but they became a real big band. But that imagery, like George Clinton took it for Funkadelic, and that's how Funkadelic kind of got their look.
Wow,
Okay.
dude, I really want to
Nobody,
check them out now.
Right? Yeah, they sound so interesting.
yeah, check them out. But yeah, it's cool that you guys you're willing to look at other types of genres, because I think that's what a lot of bands today are doing. They're kind of able to work with anybody. So one of the questions, it's a little further along, but have you thought of collaborating with bands that are outside of your genre, like a DJ or EDM trance person, or like a hip hop person, or a female artist to like collaborate with? Have you thought about that?
I mean, I personally would always be down for if something works with what we're doing. I think anything would be cool to add in, but it's really about getting the right people to work with.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about.
Yeah.
We mentioned it before a couple of times. Like, what if a hip hop artist wanted to get on a track?
Yeah,
right?
but we'll like name drop like a big one.
Yeah,
like
like
like what if Drake wanted to
Yeah, right.
hop on a track?
Right.
Yeah.
But the idea of it still is like, if a true hip hop artist, wanted to hop on a track, and what it always comes down to is like, they got to be. It has to fit the song, it has to fit the style still, even though they're bringing their own. They're bringing their own to it, but it's got to stay true to like the meaning of the song, whatever it may be.
Yeah, you don't want to have a feature just to have a feature.
Right.
You don't want to go and like have Snoop on it just to have Snoop on
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Just because it might not work.
I think it'd be cool to work with like some like to have like a track like with like a hip hop producer, but like someone who has like a very distinct style, kind of like I love RZA from Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh yeah. RZA would be a good one.
Like something like that. Like they just have that cool sound that's kind of, it's not necessarily like hip hop, but you know what I mean?
That'd be dope.
Or a guy like a Haji Beats.
Oh yeah,
from like Odd Future.
Because
he's like, he's awesome, and he's not super well known, and so it could be kind of really still legit in terms of you're not trying to go big, but you just had something that's still kind of, because the Odd Future was always kind of punk.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Had this kind of punk aesthetic, and Haji's like underrated. I think Haji's so underrated. He's really good.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite members, man. Earl Sweatshirt too. I really like Earl Sweatshirt as well.
Well, Earl is phenomenal. I mean, he drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, his lyricism is like a Dylan. He's like a hip hop Dylan. Yeah. He's like he's so well read, and his stuff is so deep. It's like it puts a lot of rap to shame, just because how he's like some of the old school guys who used to be really talented in their rhyme structures back in the day. I'm talking about bands going back, Grandmaster Flash, and going back to The Message and stuff. People used to really craft the hip hop lyrics. And he kind of goes back to that, but even more so.
Definitely has a very East Coast hip hop kind of vibe.
Yeah. Then he has a slacker kind of thing to it, but now he's gotten more emo and more self-examination and stuff. So it's kind of deep, it's deeper than most stuff. But so when you guys put together your recordings, and I talked about DAWs, but even punk bands use DAWs.
Yes, sir.
So do you guys use digital audio workstations, or you use go to a recording studio and just do it in a studio? Like what style or you have a combination of home studio and full studio and DAW and whatever?
We work with engineers and producers in a studio, but of course they record us with a DAW like Pro Tools, or I think our last producer and our new producer both use Pro Tools to record us, which is it's an awesome technology too, because you could mess up unlimited amount of times and they could just keep restarting you.
Yeah.
So we're happy for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm kind of I kind of gone with this DAW-less production, because I started on Tascam 4 trackers and 16 trackers back in the 80s, and then I kind of felt comfortable with just recording live. You know, I'm a keyboardist, so you know, as a keyboardist, you know, I have a certain level of capability. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna put it down like the old school way.
Oh, that's
And
so
one of the
awesome,
things,
man.
well, because I just use a Zoom R24, which is a 24 track digital recorder, but it's like you don't really have the freedom to be on the grid, because it's a little tiny screen. You know, it's like 90s, 80s technology type of thing,
Yeah.
but it forces you to kind of like, you got to get that track right, so you play it. And so it's a different type of way of doing it. It's harder, but it makes you sound. And then I use analog synths. So to capture analog synths, if you bring them into DAWs, you can, but they sound better when you bring them in to a technology that doesn't kind of clip them or
Yeah.
compress them. You know, lets them be what they are, and what you hear is what you get. You don't have to wait for rendering, and then you found out your mode got half the signal
Yeah, it
cut out.
sounds like you really get that analog feel instead of it having it sound like MIDI. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I use sequencers, but I use analog sequencers. I kind of look like the way Rush used to use mode, bass pedal, Taurus pedals, and stuff. That's the kind of stuff I'm into. I'm kind of using what those bands like Genesis and stuff used, and you know, it's still using sequencers, but they're analog sequencers, so they're limited in what they can do, and so you kind of deal with those limitations and you take advantage of it. It's just a different way of recording.
dude,
But you know, I appreciate what the modern bands do, because you guys are able to do a lot of cool stuff and get out.
oh yeah, definitely. And I'd love to record like analog sometime, or even through like a digital, like a mixer too. Like that'd be awesome as well. I think it'd be cool, but we'd like to find someone who really like knew what they were doing with it to before we did that, just because it's a really specific
Yeah.
skill set, you know. To
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bands that like to go that way. To go with, you know, guys who are doing recordings on like tape machines, going back and using like analog boards and using actual reel-to-reel tapes on the boards. You know, they're using like Sound City, like Olympia Studio type of equipment, which is actually starting to come back. There's a lot of places that are actually getting a resurgence in analog, you know, preamps and controllers and all kinds of boards that actually aren't digital. They're actually analog boards, but and you know, it just is a cool thing if you find a guy that knows what they're doing with it, because there's a sound that you get from analog. And it's like, you know, people talking about vinyl,
oh
and
yeah,
people talk about MP3. Is that there is a difference. You know, when I listened to Sergeant Pepper as a kid in like 76 or 75 on a vinyl, and I had to listen to the whole thing through, it's different than listening to it on my iPhone.
oh definitely, it gives you
Yeah.
a whole different feel.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's a
that
totally,
second you pop
yeah.
the needle on and it makes that little crackling, and you just feel warm inside. You know, you're like, yes.
So what do you guys think about that as a band? Like, do you think, like, when you write music, do you think of like just singles, or do you think of as like projects and albums? Like, I grew up like everything was an album, and I would sit down and listen to Pink Floyd all the way through
Oh
The
yeah,
Wall, you know, or I'd listen to Sgt. Pepper's, or I'd listen to Go Ahead Soup by the Stones, you know. I'd listen to like, you know, Rumors, you know, all the way through, because that's kind of what you had to do. You didn't have an opportunity to skip around. But so do you guys kind of focus on singles, or you focus on EPs or albums? How do you, you know, put together your music?
So usually when I write some of the songs, I normally have a like an underlining things that kind of connect. So every time I write, I visualize it in an album form. We released an EP last year called Paroxysm, and I have on it. And these next two singles that we just released, I Need You and Leech, they're leading up to a EP called Things to Worry About. So we normally always visualize it in like album EP form, just because I like, you know, something to have like, you know, like meat to. You know, there's a
yeah.
full. It makes
I
it
think
sound
it's
fuller.
cool to have like an ongoing theme, and like having your songs correlate to a specific time period in which we're writing the songs. You know, and I still listen to personally very album. Like I listen to like albums all the way through all the time still, and that's kind of how I just
That's
consume
cool.
music. Just kind of used to it like that.
That's interesting. That seems to be a new trend in the last 5 months compared to like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, everybody was just saying, "Oh, I'm just doing singles." And then the last 5, 6 months, I've been talking to bands that are starting to talk about album oriented stuff again, which is very heartening for me because I kind of grew up again, you know, that's what I'm familiar
Oh
with.
yeah.
Definitely.
Even concept albums
And
like Tommy and Quadrophenia and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I kind of grew up like wanting to do. Like, yes, you know, big projects, 10-minute long songs, you know, 8-minute songs.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know?
definitely. I mean, that's one thing that, like, another big thing about our music is that we have like a serious message in all of our songs and with our EPs and stuff. And so just with a single, I don't think, you know, you wouldn't be able to get the full effect of what we want to get across with these lyrics, you know? So all these songs having the same meaning and being, and we normally do have long songs, you know?
Yeah, like Miss Misery,
Yeah.
6 minutes and 32 seconds off of Terrorism, and most bands today don't go past like 3 minutes or two.
Oh
and a
yeah,
half
yeah,
minutes,
definitely, and that's
you know?
definitely too like another like classic. I'd say like a classic rock kind of move to do. You know, just have those long songs, and those are definitely album cuts because we wouldn't think about releasing like a 6 minute single.
yeah.
You know, so without like having like the album structure, we couldn't really have the more
Yeah, it's hard to put
experimental
that out.
songs or the
Yeah, you couldn't even put you can't even put them out if you don't have an EP because like the market doesn't want to sustain that.
definitely.
I mean, well, in the kind of art that I am, like within my little micro genre of being like an experimental keyboardist, like there are people we write 8, 10-minute, 15-minute songs, you know, but we have like a core audience that likes that, you know, and when I perform live, people want to hear that stuff, but it's like it's a very niche audience that wants to hear that. Most people are not into that. But it's heartening that you guys are still going that way. But that's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. So since do have like such a niche, like do you have more people like going to like your live shows than what would usually be? Since like it's more like specific, you know?
Well, it's weird. My audience is kind of wide. You know, I got an audience that goes like worldwide because I get a lot of people like in Berlin, and the
That's so
Netherlands,
awesome, man.
and Australia, and Tokyo, and stuff like that. That's where I get the people who are like the real like modular nerds and the freaks in
Right.
Berlin, and you know, in places like that. You know, guys in LA, guys in CBGBs. You know, in New York City, like those kind of like Fat Baby, which like a club in Manhattan. You know, people who like, you know, that want to hear a live act and they want to see somebody on a mini Moog or a Prophet 5 actually playing it instead of like a DJ jumping up and down. And so
Yeah.
but like I actually play like, you know,
You're like, I'm an actual musician.
yeah, so there are people that still want to see musicians. So that's where I tend to get, you know, and I do production work with other musicians that are looking for those sounds and they don't have like Moogs or Prophet 5, they don't have them. And so they hear my stuff and they say, oh, can you do something? And so I've been, and plus this podcast, it kind of opened up with Spotify, you know, Anchor is part of Spotify. And they found me on my SoundCloud. And then they say, hey, you know, would you like doing a show? And I started doing the show. And it's interesting. And I've interviewed like 30 bands from around the world. Like I said, I just interviewed a punk band from Australia about 2 nights ago. And in an hour or two, I'm interviewing a Riot Girl act from Los Angeles. And it's really cool to be able to you know, be a musician and then talk to musicians. And that was kind of like the pitch. Like
that is really awesome. It's such a cool technology we have now, you know, that you can just like talk to bands from all around the world and we're not even like seeing each other or anything, you know?
Yeah, that's really
cool. I mean, that's the whole
really
point.
awesome.
The point is to be able to give guys like you a platform and not restrict it, you know, so that you guys can kind of get deep into like, you know, where you're coming from. And so maybe if I give you like your latest song, maybe I like to have bands that kind of explain, maybe not too much, but like your latest single. Can you guys talk about like what the meaning is behind it? I guess sometimes bands want people to kind of figure it out, but do you guys can talk about how you built the song and where it's coming from and all that?
Yeah, sure.
On Leech.
So with Leech, it's a lot about feeling like you're being played, almost like you're like a chess piece. This whole EP we have coming out, like Things to Worry About. The underlying meaning of all of it is just people taking advantage of, you know, people, whether it be a love interest, whether it be a coworker, a friend. You know, it's there's those people out there, and what Leech stands for is, someone who will, attach onto somebody and not let them go, and take what they want to sustain themselves, and then leave you, hanging or whatever.
Yeah,
And so
parasitic tends to see.
right. And so I've had a lot of experiences, with people like that in my life, and writing that, it's just kind of the Leech. It's going to be like on the EP, and so no, you're good. It gives like a whole opening and inside look to what the whole rest of the EP is going to be about. The other songs are more the message is a little bit more hidden and a little bit deeper. This one's just straightforward. This is what this EP is about. This is what, and so
is it kind of about like the whole project about like social dynamics between people, like
definitely.
Yeah.
It goes in societal standards, political standards in the songs, and then
it's very much more like Screw You than the last one.
It's definitely more Screw You.
Musically, sorry.
Well, that's the punk aesthetic. The original Johnny Rotten is he was famous. He had a concert where they kind of like the Sex Pistols were like not performing as great as maybe they should, and he said, I guess you feel cheated. He had the tendency to kind of like put it in your face. It's like, well, you just been cheated. And we did it like a piss poor. It's like that kind of punk aesthetic, going from like the Ramones to Johnny Rotten, is they had this attitude like, well, F you. And we don't feel like being pitch perfect tonight or in tune tonight. That's what you're gonna get, and don't you feel cheated? It's like,
which is kind of how we are live, not because on purpose, but just because we're not that good. No, we're good, but we don't try. I would say we don't try to be perfect. Is a thing.
Like the Replacements, Paul Westerberg's Replacements were famous to going totally lit on stage and just being like totally out of control and out of tune, and people loved him. The press would go, "Oh, this is dynamic." The music journalists were like, it's interesting. Sometimes they praise you at the beginning when you do that, but then if you keep on doing it, and they're like, "Okay, well, I thought you were kind of gonna get beyond that." But it's just part of the whole punk aesthetic is to kind of be raw and real. And I've always been drawn to it, even as a keyboardist. It's like, well, I get driven to, great acts, like Herbie Hancock, totally precise jazz guy, right? But then I'll go listen to the Hoots Doo or Orange 9mm, or something, crazy that's a little more, kind of out there. And it's just because I like anybody who's pushing the envelope, whether it's a jazz artist or a classical artist or anybody doing anything. It's just interesting to see people who are being, true to themselves. And it's kind of about how you approach it.
Oh yeah, definitely. We always try to approach anything we do with a sense of, genuine. We put ourselves in there for sure. No lies here.
Yeah, I mean, because like if you're going to be an artist, like there's, it's a capitalist system, right? Everybody wants to make money, but a lot of times what I find is musicians, especially indie musicians, they do it because they love music. They do it because they have something to say. And what you guys are doing is that you love it, right? I mean, you're passionate about it, and even if you're not like in the top 10, you're going to still do it because you want to do it, right?
Oh, definitely. And that was like a big thing with us, is that like we'd be doing this whether we had no fans or no one listening to us or people listening to us.
Like when people would ask me if I was younger, like, what do you want to do when you're older? What are you going to be when you're older? I would always say, like, I want to be a musician. Not meaning that I want to be the next big thing, but like right now I feel like I'm living the dream. It's what I wanted to do. Like I'm playing music with my friends, and I'm always going to do that. And I'm writing about things about how I feel about things, and I'm making my voice be heard. And that's how I can, express myself through this art. And so no matter what, I would always be doing this.
That's awesome. Like I think that's the future of music, is like the people who are passionate about it, things just happen. Like you just end up getting to the right people. You end up getting to the right places. You go forward with your dream because you believe in it. The guys who are like want to be the biggest thing, they might not make it if that's what the whole point is.
Yeah,
because not everybody's gonna. not everybody's gonna be the biggest thing.
Yeah, you're gonna give up as soon as you realize, like, if like you don't catch on as quick as you think you're going to, and you give up on it. I mean, it's not very sustainable.
No, the sustainable model is to believe what you're doing, find like a niche audience, find a place to play, find people who are die hard. In this world, as an indie artist, sell your merch, do sync licensing if you want to do that. But there's things you can do. Like the way I'm doing this podcast, I found that I can continue my career as the Ghost, and it takes away from my writing time, but it pushes my name out there. And so you find different ways to do things,
Oh yeah.
And so when you guys were playing live, right? You were doing live shows?
Yes, sir.
Or did you guys? So I noticed on your website you were talking about how you were going to be going like to Cali, but did all that get kind of pushed down because of what happened with Corona?
Oh, definitely, 1,000%. We had a whole Texas tour all booked out, and we were talking to like people from California, and then after the whole coronavirus thing, which just kind of hit everyone in the music industry. I mean, it kind of
we were
screwed us over.
Everybody.
We had just finished booking all the Texas tour, and we were just about to start booking California. We were making the connections. We were talking to people, and then right then it started getting crazy and spreading faster and faster, and it just had to be shut down, and there's nothing we could do about it.
Yeah.
So are you guys like jumping on like the online concerts that are starting to happen with some of these like I jumped onto 2 I signed up for. They're starting to do these indie showcases from people's bedroom studios and garage studios. They're starting to have places that are going to do that.
Oh,
have you
definitely.
found any way to kind of to convert to that strategy?
We're actually so tonight actually we're doing just a little bedroom acoustic performance, just recorded on our phones for Instagram Live. But yeah, like
Cool.
Definitely, I think if we find someone who has a cool setup, they can do a good live thing. I think it's awesome, especially during these times of quarantine and staying distant. I think it's a great thing that bands are found a way to still get out there and play shows.
Oh yeah, I mean, because I'm part of a couple of distribution things. I'm one of these guys. I finally got like a distribution deal on SoundCloud, and I actually have a couple of labels that have distribution deals with. But I had this deal with this company out in London, and they've got like a Facebook Live promotional bedroom artist thing that they're setting up for bands to do. And I signed up for that, and there's a couple other ones I signed up to do. But I always go on Twitch anyway and do shows on Twitch TV. But in Facebook Live, I've been doing for like 3 years for my home studio. I just go on and I record a session for my home studio.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
And I've been able to, like, when I go to Fat Baby Manhattan, I get like 300 people, right, in a small club. But when I do Facebook Live, sometimes I get 3,000 to 5,000 people. Which it's a totally different thing. And then I can try new stuff out. And I basically try my live show that I'm going to do in New York. I do it on Facebook Live and I see what works and what doesn't work.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of could try it. It's okay, that worked, and that didn't work. And say, okay, well, that's where I'm going to go when I go to New York.
Do you post videos of you playing?
Yeah.
Do you have like a purplish lighting around you when you're playing?
Yeah. That's me. Yeah, it's me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've totally seen your videos. Yeah, you're good, man. You're really good.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, it's just like I finally people are starting to realize I've been doing this for like 3 years before anybody was doing it, because I just like to write and play all the time.
You're ahead of the curve.
So it just gave me a place to do it, and I just keep on working with some people that I'm trying to do a showcase on this program that I'm gonna have some bands actually come on my Facebook and do a bedroom performance. So we're getting ready to set that up. But some of the bandwidth because of this Corona thing has kind of dropped.
Some of the bands dropped out?
No, some of the bandwidth of the internet service providers, because so many people are home.
Oh yeah, it's getting slower.
When I did like a beta test with this band. I was talking to this band from like the Netherlands, right? And normally the bandwidth was pretty good, but then like everybody's home, and so now the speeds have dropped.
Yeah.
So then when I did a beta test with this band from the Netherlands, it wasn't coming in right. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to wait. But you know, it was just hard to get that. Well, she's in the Netherlands too. That was kind of hard to get her signal to be the best signal ever. But that's a limitation. But yeah, it's just what you can do. Like the fact that I was gonna do that, and I probably still will be able to. I'm looking at getting some boosting equipment in my house to knock it up. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. So if you found other resources out there, like during this time, because some of the questions I'm asking now are like, you know, because of Corona, have you found resources that are available to you or different ways of doing things, like focus on merch or focus on, you know, doing stuff on Instagram and Facebook and Twitch, and, you know, have you thought about other things?
Oh yeah, I think we do a pretty good job of just staying like active on our social medias during this time, and then we're playing that show that we're doing on our Instagram live, and we weren't gonna release this single Leech yet, but we decided, since everything kind of got pushed back, that it's good to put something out there while we kind of have this break of shows. And also, I mean, potentially maybe like shooting a music video or something of that nature would be cool, just to keep out there, you know.
Yeah,
And also one thing,
it's always good to
one thing that's lucky for us is that our little fan base is pretty like active with us and like talks to us and messages us and posts when they're listening. So we're pretty like connected with the people who do like our music. So we have an easy way to just still keep connected with the people who really do like our music and stuff. So.
Yeah, and that's interesting because one of the cool things things I've been hearing are like SoundCloud has already put a donation button on their site for people's profiles.
Oh, for real?
People can actually, if you are on SoundCloud at a certain level, I think it's not the free level. I think you got to be somebody's paying. But if you're on, yeah, like, well, I've been on the platform for a while, so I'm kind of like at a different tier. But there's a donation button. There's a donation button that now is available that you can it goes right to like a PayPal, and people can go donate whatever they want to the band. They set that up, so it's actually kind of worth it if you can get people to actually.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. That's a good feature that help a lot of musicians out during this time.
Yeah, they kind of put it up. Yeah, because they basically say on it, because of COVID-19, we're providing this donation button for your favorite band. Please donate whatever you want, and it goes right to their PayPal, and people are able to donate whatever they want, and it goes right to the band.
Dang,
they don't have to wait for a real
that is
check.
great.
Yeah, and then I think I heard Spotify is getting ready to do the same thing with a button that's coming. SoundCloud just did it before them. But yeah, that's kind of cool that the resources are getting out there to do that. You know, that's kind of what's needed, you know.
Yeah. Definitely needed.
It's gonna be helpful.
Yeah, a lot of musicians.
Because so many bands in this age, one of the questions I have is like, you know, like streaming is great because people are able to get through the gate. Like when I grew up, like if you're a band, like you couldn't even get anything on any kind of platform unless you went through some A&R guy, and you could never get to
for real?
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, because it was a gate. Like the record industry had these A&R guys, and unless you fit what they wanted, you weren't going to get anywhere. You know, you'd have to be just totally indie trying to sell stuff out the back of your trunk. You know, that's all you could do.
That's wild.
In fact, then SoundCloud came along, and I jumped on that like when it first started, and I said, wow, now I can get my stuff out. So I started going on SoundCloud like 10 years ago. And that was like the first thing. And then now, you know, they actually send my stuff to all the streaming services now. So I get on everywhere through them. But yeah, it's just interesting that you can get out there, but the pay rate for streaming is very like low. It's like less than pennies.
Oh yeah, definitely
per stream.
Yeah, it's really hard to make money off of streaming.
Yeah, so bands have to sell merch and they have to tour. So this COVID thing has really hurt, you know, not actors, musicians, anybody that does physical performance is kind of like, you know, even you know, athletes that have to go to arenas. Nobody can make money because they can't go out.
Oh yeah, anything like public performance, and it pretty much crippled like the whole music business right now, and really sucks, man.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the guys who, like, you know, the recording engineers or the sound guys or the lighting guys and the riggers and all the guys that, you know, they're doing all the work on the big stages. They just suddenly like out of work and nobody knows when they're going to be able to come back.
Oh yeah.
And it's a big. I know there's a bunch of efforts to help like the guys who are like in the industry. You know, your roadies, your truck drivers,
Yeah,
like the lighting guys,
so much.
all those guys are like hurting real bad. You know.
Yeah, even like our engineer and producer, his name's Alazier Sanchez. Yeah, that's his name. Lights Out Studio. He we couldn't record with them, and apparently no one can record with them right now because of the whole, COVID
You can't
thing.
get to the studio.
Yeah, so
you're not. That's not essential business, so you can't. Go.
Yeah, it crippled his business pretty much. So he's kind of screwed right now. And
yeah, the only thing you can do is try to see if you can send, vocals or send tracks because you got an FL Studio or you got Pro Tools on your Mac, and you do it that way. Because that's kind of like what I did a couple of years ago. I worked with this actress in LA, and she had FL Studio, and I had my Zoom, and we did it. We never even met, and we did Skype meetings, and we put together a record, just sending tracks back and forth on Google Drive, going between her FL Studio and my Zoom R24. And we put out an album on CD Baby, and it's like we were able to put the whole album together in like 3 months with never meeting, just doing it all online.
That's so awesome, man.
So
honestly.
So it is possible if you're willing to kind of think out the box, but you have to be willing to like, think a little bit out the box and have a good computer or something to be able to do it.
I was about to say, honestly, like I have FL Studio on my computer, and my computer's so bad that like
you can't render.
Yeah, every time I plug in my interface, like it'll like freeze the whole computer and it won't do anything. It'll just be like, nope.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, that's why I actually got the R24, because the R24 basically does what a DAW does, but it never freezes. It doesn't have that kind of CPU RAM issue.
Oh dang,
so
I need that.
Yeah, if you ever looked into Tascams and Zooms, they allow you to have 24 track recorders, right? And you just have 1/4-inch lines, and you can put down tracks. You can overdub, you can punch in and punch out, you can kind of do stuff. I can put up to 24 tracks, and then I can bring them down and do up to 48, and
that's
48 megahertz, 24-bit audio, which is not bad. And then I can do some cool tricks with some tools on my laptop, and most of my stuff gets approved for distribution. The quality is good enough. So yeah, there's alternatives. I mean, that machine is like a $600 machine.
Oh dang,
that's and it
really
gives
good.
you the ability. A Zoom R24 is only like $600, and it gives you the ability to record onto SD card, and then you can load it onto your computer, and to go from there. So there are ways to do things. I just give this out. I've been telling bands about it just because people aren't able to get to studio.
Yeah, definitely.
So not that I want to sell a Zoom or a Tascam. I don't get any money for them. But if you want to be able to put tracks down and we get stuck here for like a year or something, that's another way of doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. We're gonna look into that. Actually, we're totally gonna look into that.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, I mean, Tascam has a 24-channel machine called a 24, and that machine's pretty good. It's really good, and it has analog control on its mixing console and digital recording capability. So it's analog and digital. So that one is a Rock Band. It's really good for capturing live takes because it has analog preamps and stuff, and analog control over the overall mixing board, but digital capture of your WAV file of your performance, which is pretty good.
Yeah, man, we're totally gonna look into that. That's really awesome, and that's the kind of something that would be cool, even just to like demo music, to have stuff laid out.
Yeah. Or some bands even use it so they have some control at their gigs, so they have their own kind of sound control before it goes to the sound guy, so they can kind of control their sound.
Oh, that's cool.
Because you can it's an idea, like if you bring that, then you also can even record your live performances to SD card and put out live records.
What, dude? That is cool. So that's really cool.
That's an idea I just pop out there because I do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool thing to do because people like live music, and so if you can capture yourself live, that's a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you guys you're working on the new EP, what's the name of that EP coming out again?
Things to Worry About. Yes, sir. We're
things to worry about. So what's your release date for that?
Oh, well, actually, we were middle of recording. We're actually supposed to be recording like the rest of the guitars and vocals like pretty much back to back for the EP. But right when that happened, San Antonio went on lockdown.
Oh.
And
So you can't finish it in your current
yeah,
configuration.
so it's kind of it's pretty close to being done though. So I mean, once it kind of gets a little less strict, which I think is kind of coming to where it's kind of, you know, getting a little better. Hopefully we could go in and then punch in the rest of what we need to punch in and get it out there. We're for sure not going to release it though until we can gig behind it and play shows to support it.
Yeah, do some tours.
Yeah, so you're comfortable with your current producer engineer. You want to keep that style.
Oh yeah,
that sound.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we really like him. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, that's cool. Because yeah, I mean, I've worked with some people. Like I've worked with a bunch of different bands, and most of the time I just kind of produce myself and I work with other people. But yeah, I do have like some recording engineers I work with, like a record company called Bentley Records, and I can kind of like phone it into them. Yeah, they have like a distribution contract with this company in New York, and I actually send my stuff after I put it into my Zoom, and then the recording engineers take my Zoom files and they fix them up. But my deal is people don't touch my mix, other than to like make it sound better, but they don't structurally change my tracks. So I kind of got a distribution deal where I have like creative control, but nobody can they can make my stuff sound better, but they can't change it.
Don't compromise the art, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, some people don't care. I mean, some people want a producer to kind of rework their whole song.
Yeah.
But like that's not me. But
oh yeah, we don't really like our to do too much to our music. Like usually, like yeah. Well, he does actually add like a lot of cool stuff, like cool sound effects and stuff that we're like, whoa. He'll like add stuff to it, but he won't like change the structure.
He doesn't like take away or rearrange the structure. Like take like lines, the first like couple bars and move them to the end or middle of the song. Or
definitely not.
Yeah, some guys they're big into that. But then what happens, what I find is if you work with a producer, sometimes producers just want you to sound like what they think you should sound like, and that's cool if you're trying to go for what their signature sound. And some producers have a signature sound, and you kind of like defer to their, you know. I actually did one project with this company called Mojo Heads where I actually deferred to a producer and they rearranged my whole song.
Oh my God.
And it was but they was like a 10-minute song and they knocked it down to 2.5.
Like, we're just gonna delete this.
And they took pieces from like the end of the song, from the middle of the song, from all of the song, and kind of slammed them all around. And I'm like,
that's
okay,
wild.
But that wasn't the song.
We should just try that once, right?
I tried it just to see what would happen, and I'm like, okay, it did okay, but it's like it's not really me. It kind of became that producer's style, and I'm like, okay, that's what he wanted to do, but it's not really me. But that's what they do sometimes. So I'm like, okay, well, I tried it. I can't say I didn't try it.
Just didn't like it.
Didn't like it. but yeah, it's cool. So like we can have you back on when you get that EP ready to go. We tend to be able to have shows where we'll talk to the band when they have a release, and we could do like a release party show or something when you guys are getting ready to push.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome, man. Thank you.
And for this episode, we will include your Spotify profile, artist profile link, and your latest single links, and it's going to go out to 11 different platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Radio Public, Overcast, and many more. And we also have integration between Spotify and Instagram, so we'll be able to put a highlight up that will go to the podcast Spotify version of the show.
That's cool, man. We really like that.
So, so we're going to put that up later tonight. We do have another interview at 9, but you will probably see this starting to show up within an hour.
Awesome. Yeah, that's quick. Wow, that's really awesome, man.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah. Oh, I did want to ask you, like, is there a meaning behind the name of your band? Like, I forgot to ask you.
I'll let you take this one.
So, we were just when we were coming up with it. It was just me and John sitting at the table. We were just throwing names out there, all different kinds of names. And a while back, there was this word I saw on Urban Dictionary that means moms that take pictures of their kids. So it's technically
Mama.
Yeah, instead of paparazzi.
Like paparazzi. So it's a play on paparazzi.
Yeah, we pronounce it Momarazzi, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
everyone says it different ways.
Yeah, we don't really have like a hardcore meaning, like some kind of like philosophical.
Right, we just thought it sounded cool and funny.
We're just like Momarazzi.
Yeah,
we tested it out by saying it in a British accent.
Yeah,
we're like
Momarazzi.
we like that.
That's another fun name because the band I just talked to, Jurassic Park, they actually from Australia. They named themselves after Jurassic Park because one of the band members thought the person said the movie was called Jurassic instead of Jurassic Park, so they named themselves that. So it's kind of funny. You guys have kind of a fun name too. So.
Yeah, we wanted something kind of out there.
Yeah, definitely. So that stands out.
That's great. So you guys hang in there. You guys will get back in the studio, and I'm going to hear from you again. Get in touch with me when you're ready with your new record. And we'll push out information, at that time when you're touring again, and we'll give people your tour dates.
Awesome, that'd be great, man. Yeah,
that's cool.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, get in touch with us. Yeah, great. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, thanks a lot for being on our show. It's Momarazzi, Phantom Electric Ghost. Please check out all their records. If they're on the services like iTunes and Amazon, please buy their records, buy their merch, buy everything they got, download, and tell all your friends. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Have a good night.